Greetings and welcome. In this video, we will be exploring the Irish deity the Morrigan and her various incarnations or avatars, as they are understood within our school of thought. We will provide an overview of this deity to help viewers develop a foundational understanding of the source material, whilst also examining what these texts reveal about her nature and role within Irish mythology. The primary sources we will draw upon are the Tonbo Cullinure and the Camai Turith, two of the most important texts in which Morrigan appears. While there are multiple schools of thought regarding the interpretation of these sources, we will present the view that we believe best reflects the evidence, based upon the arguments and reasoning that have been put forward. Our aim is to provide the clearest and most complete understanding of this deity that the surviving sources allow. So, without further ado, let's get into the video.
The Morrigan is a goddess of war and prophecy who is conflated with Anu, or Anan, and Danand in some medieval Irish texts. Later scholarship has sometimes linked these figures with the reconstructed goddess Danu, allowing broader Indo-European comparisons with primordial water figures, such as the Vedic Danu or Norse Ran. Beyond war, the Morrigan has a deep connection to sovereignty and the right to rule. In Irish tradition, kingship is not just political, it is a relationship with the land itself. The Morrigan appears at key moments connected to this idea, sometimes granting victory, foretelling the fate of rulers, representing the power of the land that chooses or rejects a king. This ties her to a broader group of female figures who embody Ireland itself as a living, sacred presence. In the sources, she does not fight like a warrior in the usual sense. Instead, she foretells death and victory, magically shapes outcomes of battles, unsettles and terrifies armies, and appears among the slain. She is closely associated with the battlefield crow, often taking that form as she moves among corpses. This links her not just to violence, but to the aftermath of conflict and the fate of those who fall. In the surviving texts, especially the Ulster cycle, the Morrigan appears during moments of crisis, particularly war. A triple or collective being. The Morrigan is sometimes presented as a single figure, but elsewhere she appears as part of a group of related goddesses. Together, they are referred to as the Morrinia, meaning phantom queens or great queens, a plural form that suggests not a single individual, but a cluster of closely related divine figures. In this sense, the Morrigan can be understood as a single divinity expressed through multiple forms. Some texts explicitly use this plural, reinforcing the idea of multiplicity. At the same time, these figures are often so closely associated that they should be interpreted as multiple manifestations of the same underlying deity. In certain traditional texts, Anan is listed alongside Bab and Macha. Since both are closely tied to the Morrigan, this creates a genealogical and functional overlap, further blurring the boundary between the distinct figures and shared identity. In medieval Irish sources, Anan is in some cases not merely associated with the Morrigan, but directly identified with her. A gloss cited by John Shaw states plainly in his article, Indo-European Dragon Slayers, quote, Anand, that is, Morrigu, end quote. While parallel passages in the Liber Gabala Erin substitute the name Morrigan, where others give Anan. These instances show that, in certain traditions, the two were understood as one and the same, though this identification is not universal across all texts. The prophecies of the Morrigan. Considering the frequency with which the Morrigan functions as a prophetic figure in the surviving literature, it is worthwhile to examine some of her most notable prophecies and the context in which they are delivered. Quote, Peace up to heaven, heaven down to earth, earth beneath heaven, strength in every one, a cup very full, full of honey. End quote. From the Cosmogaturid. This is spoken at the conclusion of the battle as her prophecy for the future of Ireland and its abundance. Quote, summer in winter, speckled cattle in the fields, woods heavy with mast. From the Cosmogaturid. I shall not live long, said Cuchulainn. Indeed you shall not, said the Morrigan. I shall be at your death. From the Táin Cuailnge. This exchange between Cuchulainn and the Morrigan shows us an instance wherein she predicts his death, confirming his expectation to die young. Quote, milk in the cows, fish in the rivers, fruit on the trees. From the Cosmogaturid. All of these prophecies are related to abundance as the result of victory, or to the outcome of battles, often being the harbinger of death or victory depending on her favour. The Morrigan in the Táin Cuailnge. I have come to you, said the woman, to offer you my love and my aid in your struggle. I have no need of a woman's help, said Cuchulainn. Then I shall hinder you, she said, and I shall be against you when you're in battle. Then the Morrigan came against him in the form of an eel in the fjord, and she wound herself around his legs. After that, she came as a grey wolf driving the cattle across the plain. Then she came as a red heifer at the head of the herd. This next quote is from the third paragraph of the Death of Cuchulainn. Quote, Cuchulainn went to his horse, and thrice did the horse turn his left side to his master. On the night before, the Morrigan had broken the chariot, for she liked not Cuchulainn's going to the battle, for she knew that he would not come again to Avon Macha. End quote. In this passage, we see the Morrigan trying to prevent the death of Cuchulainn, contrary to how many have interpreted this narrative. Cuchulainn encounters 3 one-eyed hags a paragraph later, who many wrongly identify with the Morrigan herself. These 3 hags are entirely different characters to the Morrigan, despite being conflated with her by some. When we look at this narrative fully, they work at odds with her aims. Where the Morrigan directly attempts to prevent the death of Cuchulainn, the 3 one-eyed hags work to bring it about. Quote, then he saw 3 crones, blind of the left eye, before him on the road. They had cooked on spits of rowan tree a dog with poisons and spells. And one of the things that Cuchulainn was bound not to do was going to a cooking hearth and consuming the food. And another of the things he must not do was eating his namesake's flesh. He sped on and was about to pass them, for he knew that they were not there for his good. End quote. Though the Morrigan is the focus of this video, we will cover more about the Táin and the death of Cuchulainn in future videos. The Morrigan sometimes takes on imagery associated with the Cailleach, just as other Indo-European traditions often blur distinctions between mother goddesses, battle goddesses, night goddesses, and destructive feminine powers. Rather than treating all these figures as literally identical, the broader idea is that they are related expressions or emanations of a deeper mythic principle, a primordial feminine force tied to chaos, death, wisdom, transformation, and the waters from which life and destruction both emerge. This distinction becomes especially important in tales like the death of Cuchulainn. There, the Morrigan appears sorrowful and unable to prevent the hero's doom, whereas the more impersonal crone or fate powers move inevitably towards his destruction. In this interpretation, the Morrigan is connected to fate through prophecy and vision, But the deeper machinery of fate itself belongs more to the Cailleach-like powers behind the scenes. A major recurring motif is the encounter between the storm or warrior god and a feminine water being. The Dagda meets the Morrigan at the river, with her legs astride the waters, while Thor encounters Galp spanning the river in the Skald de Skaparmal. These encounters are paired with another theme, the subduing of a monstrous watery force in the Dagda's case, this being a monstrous octopus who may have been a form of the Morrigan, suggesting two aspects of the same mythic pattern: union with the waters and struggle against their destructive power. Another important theme is prophecy and fate. The Morrigan's apocalyptic prophecies resemble the visions of the Vulva and the Voluspa. Both traditions preserve female figures who foresee the collapse of order, kinship, and society at the end of an age. Yet the argument here is that the seeress is not identical to fate itself. Rather, these goddesses stand close to fate, perceive it, and announce it, but do not fully control it. Religious practice. The archaeological record preserves little evidence that could be unequivocally associated with the worship of the Morrigan. Consequently, attempts to reconstruct her religious significance must rely primarily upon the medieval Irish mythological and heroic literature. One particularly clear example occurs in the Táin Bó Cúailnge, where the Morrigan appears to be invoked under her epithet, Naaman. Quote, Bob and Nate's wife and Naaman called upon them that night so that 100 warriors of them died for terror. End quote. From another ascension, Book of Leinster tradition, during the great slaughter scenes associated with Cuchulain's fury. Quote, and the Naaman confused the army, and the 4 provinces of Éire dashed themselves against the points of their own spears, so that 100 warriors died of fear and trembling. End quote. In the Táin, when Naaman or Bab appear, they are sometimes described in ways that imply that they are called forth by the conditions of battle itself. Quote, the hosts were seized by the cries of Bab and the frenzy of Naaman, so that men fell by fear. End quote. This next episode comes from the Cathma Gatorade, where the Dagda meets the Morrigan before the battle with the Fomorians. Quote, the Dagda went to meet the Morrigan, and they lay together. And she said that she would destroy the king of the Fomorians, Indech, son of Daidaman, and bring his blood to the hosts of the Tuatha Daidanan. End quote. In some versions, this is expanded to include her promise to take the blood of his heart and pour it before the hosts. In each of these examples, we see the Morrigan or Naaman being invoked to cause harm to enemies through the infliction of terror, confusion, and psychological distress. Within a reconstructed religious framework, the Morrigan would most likely be venerated as a prophetic deity, especially by those pursuing forms of divination and spiritual insight. At the same time, her more fearsome and destructive aspects suggest that she may also have been invoked against enemies, serving as a source of terror and psychological affliction. The application of these aspects in a modern context would necessarily depend upon the individual practitioner's aims, ethical considerations, and religious worldview. In religious practice, the Morrigan may be approached as a prophetic goddess who appears to foretell outcomes, announce deaths, and proclaim victories yet to come. Her manifestations in the mythological sources often occur within liminal contexts or moments of heightened consciousness, indicating an association with the transmission of prophetic knowledge. Through such encounters, she functions as a revealer of fate, offering insight into events that have not yet come to pass. Offerings to the Morrigan, accompanied by prayers or invocations seeking her aid against enemies or opponents, might be made by depositing those offerings into a body of water, a practice that echoes the association of votive deposits with Celtic religious traditions. The Morrigan may also be invoked under her epithet Bab. In later Irish tradition, Bab could be used as a term for a witch or supernatural female figure, and it is possible that the title came to denote a woman believed to be channeling the power of Bab in order to deliver prophecies or foretell outcomes.
The Morrigan is one of the most complex and enigmatic figures in Irish mythology, embodying prophecy, battle, death and sovereignty. Far more than simply a goddess of war, she appears throughout the medieval Irish sources as a shape-shifting divine being tied to rivers, magic and fate itself. She foretells destruction, influences the outcome of battles and moves between the roles of seeress, temptress, protector and terrifying supernatural presence. In many cases, she exists both as an individual goddess and as part of a wider triad or collective of related female powers, blurring the boundaries between singular deity and many-formed divine force. Although she shares important characteristics with the ancient crone figure of the Cailleach, particularly in her darker and more primordial aspects, the Morrigan retains a distinct role as an active, prophetic and martial goddess. We would like to thank our viewers for helping us to reach over 300 subscribers recently, and we hope that we can pass even bigger milestones together in the future to produce even more educational religious content.